Yo, what's goody? It's Bear in the building. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Kueen Talk. If you are new here, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe button, leave a comment, let us know what you think of this episode. Today's special guest is from Columbus, Ohio, but is in Newport Beach, California, who is a pop rap artist, Teddy Martin. Please help me welcome Teddy Martin. Thank you, Teddy, for
Hi,
joining us.
hi. How are you? How are you?
Good. I'm doing
Good.
good.
Thank you for having me. So my name is Teddy Martin. I am originally from Columbus, Ohio, but I now live in Newport Beach, California, and I identify as he, him, and I've been in the music industry for over a decade now.
Over a decade.
Yes.
How long have you been in Cali?
So I've actually lived out here a couple of different times. I originally first came out here in 2012. Because I really wanted to get my feet wet because I felt like where I'm originally from, there isn't a lot for artists to really like thrive or really go to like the level that I wanted to.
Hmm.
So I moved to California in 2012 and I lived out here for about, I would say, a year. And then I found out that my biological father had passed away. And I found out my mom was sick. She actually was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. So I ended up going back home, and then I ended up losing like a bunch of like family members within that time period. So within that time period, I think I lost over 10 or 11 family members within like that 10-year span. And then I came back out here and I think it was 2008, 17, 18. And I was out here for a while and I was like, I really, really miss California. Like, it's just, to me, it's always been home. And I moved out here and this is where I met my husband. And we actually lived in Ohio for a couple of years because he had never lived outside the state of California. And this was during like COVID time.
Okay.
So he spent actually 2 winters in the Midwest, and after that second winter, he was like, "Okay, we gotta go back to California because the snow is like killing me, man."
Hey, at least you
So
got that experience. It's
he,
worth the experience
yes,
for
and he
sure.
said that, and he said that he was like, honestly, I enjoyed the Four Seasons. He was like, it was, and he also got to know my family
Hmm.
as well, so which was really, really nice. And so in 2023, we made the journey back out to California because he's originally from Compton and Long Beach.
Okay.
So we moved out here. We decided we didn't want to live in LA County. We kind of wanted to live somewhere a little quieter, but still had like a good vibe to it. So we moved to Newport.
That's awesome. I feel like it is the place, the destination. Like if you are someone who's growing in like that industry,
Hmm.
Cali is a great spot to be in.
Yes.
And when you arrive there, do you feel like you have elevated, like your career has grown, like the move was worth it?
Oh, fam. Oh my goodness. Like, yes. So when I originally started doing music over a decade ago, I was living in Columbus and I got to do like some small clubs and I'm not taking away from like what I got to do because I actually got to do some really amazing things while I lived in Ohio. But I felt like the networking aspect, being out here really helped me. Like for example, have you ever heard of the Viper Room? Like the
I
famous Viper
have,
Room?
I have actually.
So I actually got to perform there twice. Um,
Nice.
and that was something that was very unexpected. I wasn't expecting to like do something to that caliber, me being out here the short amount of time that I had like came back out here. And may he rest in peace, but I actually opened up for Aaron Carter a couple of different times before he passed away. Once in 2019 when he was really starting to like I don't know if you remember the story. He was trying to get his life together.
Right, yeah,
Um,
bounce back, yeah.
yeah, bounced back and it was my first time seeing him perform live, which was like he was amazing. And then the second time was around COVID. So just like those opportunities, and then being able to do like a couple of parades. Like I performed in the Compton parade, and there's like a city out here called Gardenia. I got to perform out in that parade, and now I'm doing like the county fairs out here. Which when I was back home where I'm from, I wasn't getting booked for stuff like that. I wasn't getting booked to go and do county fairs and stuff like that. So
Do you
I
think
will
you were
say,
do you think you were networking as hard as you are back home as you are like in California?
I'm gonna say yes and no, and I mean yes in the terms of like I did in the sense of like when I was back home, I did network because, but the thing is, like the community was so small. The musical community was so small. Um, you didn't really get a chance to really like thrive. Like they had like different events for artists, but it wasn't how like if you come to California, you can go to Orange County to do things. You can go to LA, you can go to San
Uh,
Fran, you can go to San Diego. It's like they didn't, it wasn't the same. So when I got out here, I felt like the networking, it kind of changed because you actually got to meet people who kind of followed through with what they were doing. Like I said, in terms of like when I lived back home, I wasn't doing county fairs. I did pride festivals, which I like had a blast doing. And I will say one of the greatest things I will remember when I was back home, I got to perform at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which was,
mm,
I will say, that was something else that was very unexpected, but it was a time in my life where I was networking, which
mhm.
got me to that point. But I really wanted to really put in the work and I really wanted to just be somewhere where I felt like, not saying that Ohio wasn't home, but my parents live in Florida now. All my nieces and nephews are grown up, they have kids. Um, and I wanted to start my own family. I wanted to start my own community and just kind of come somewhere where like I felt at home at the stage at in my life right now.
Yeah. So you said California is, you feel like that's home, but I want to
Hmm.
talk about like the home before home, which was Ohio and like your upbringing. What
Yeah,
is Columbus, Ohio like? Because I've never been. So like, what's that upbringing like? Like, what was that like for you?
I will say it has, well, first and foremost, I think over the past, because I'll be 38 in 2 weeks. It's just changed dramatically. So growing up, I'm an 80s baby, I'm a 90s kid. So growing up, I just remember like uh, family. It was a lot of family get-togethers. It was a lot of just like I enjoyed my childhood in Columbus. I think as I got older, I just saw like things were starting to change. It became very like corporate, I guess you can say. So like
Mm,
there are three major cities in Columbus that people are like, or not Columbus, but Ohio that people like know of. Cleveland,
right.
Columbus, and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Cleveland is known for it being retro. It's known for like its music scene. It's a little closer to Pennsylvania. It's a little colder up there too because it's more north. Um, Cincinnati is known for college town party, like
Football.
football. Columbus is also known for football, but Columbus is very like central corporate businesses,
Mm,
um, where you go basically to raise your kids.
okay.
Um, but I honestly like I enjoyed my upbringing. Like I can remember my grandparents taking care of me before I started school. Like my both my parents worked two jobs. My grandparents took care of me while they were at work, and I will say like I had a really great upbringing. No complaints. I think for me,
You have any
just growing.
siblings?
Yes, so I am the youngest.
Okay.
um,
Okay.
I
Here it
have.
is. Here it is.
I am the youngest. But I act the oldest. I always like
Oh,
to say that. Yeah. So I have a brother that is 53. I have a sister that is 50. I have a half sister. She is in her early 40s. And then also have a stepsister who is in her early 40s as well.
okay. All right. So you growing up, is it diverse like where you were raised, like in Columbus, Ohio, corporate world? Like is it diverse there? Did you see a lot of representation of yourself besides your
Um,
family or
I will say yes. Growing up, it was, but it was very like black and white. here in California, you get like a whole mix of like different kinds of people. But I feel like back home growing up, you either saw black people or you saw white people. And then like you had a lot of people who like migrated from like the African countries that came to like in like Middle Eastern countries, but you didn't really see a lot of representation. And I will say within maybe like the past like 10 years, you started to see like a little bit more out there. But me growing up personally, I didn't really see a lot of like other like cultures. Like I said, you were either black or you were white.
Okay. What
Yeah.
about queer representation of like a black gay male? Like, did you see that growing up?
Not until I was much older. Like honestly, when I started going out to the clubs and partying, I was 18. And honestly, I knew that there were other, because I went to high school with other guys who were like gay and who other girls who were gay and everything, but I wasn't like really exposed to the culture until I would say I was like 18 or 19. Because before then, like I just hung out with my high school friends and we went to campus parties. And obviously, like you don't see a lot of us at the campus parties. and, but it wasn't until we have this area where I'm from. It's called the Short North, and that's where like all of the queer bars, and that's where everyone who was from gay to trans to lesbian to like non-binary, like that's where everyone parties at. And like I said, I wasn't exposed to that until I was like a little bit older.
What was that
um
like your first experience? Like, what was entering that space for you?
you know what, I was kind of naughty because I was like 17 when I first experienced it. So like, like you're not supposed to be going out to the bars and stuff when you're I wasn't even 21 yet.
Yeah.
um we actually it's so funny. So I have actually two stories. So the first time we went to this restaurant, and it was like a bar and a restaurant, but obviously you were like allowed to go, but I think after a certain time they started to like card you.
Right.
And I had to be like 17. So my friend at the time, she was like the only one that had a driver's license. So we like were driving past the Short North, and we're like, what's this place? And they called it Union Station. So we decided to go in there for like a little bit. And like I was in awe, and I was like, wow, like this is like amazing. So we ended up meeting her friend, who he was like a freshman in college, I believe, or he was a freshman or a sophomore in college. He went to Ohio State. So we met him, and he's like, "Oh, I would love for you guys to come to this." It was this club called Axis, and everybody went to Axis. Like it was just everybody went, and we were like, "Well, I'm not 18. Like I'm not 18. Like I can't go." And he was like, "I'll sneak you guys in the back door." So, so it was really random because like a couple weeks later, my cousins had ended up coming to stay the night with me. And I was like, "Hey guys, I met this new friend. Do you guys want to go to a club?" And they're my age because they're like a couple months younger than me, and they're like, "We're not 18. Like, how are we gonna get in there?" And I'm like, "He's gonna sneak us in the back door." So actually, funny story. They actually put an alarm on the back door now, so you can't sneak in there. They caught on. So we ended
Figures.
up like sneaking in, and I grew up watching like Queer as Folk. I come from like that era.
Okay.
So when I got in there, I just was like, wow, this is like legit. Like this is kind of what I've seen on TV. Boys dancing with shirts off, people pouring drinks. Um, and I had like I was kind of drinking. Like I said, I wasn't 21 and I shouldn't have been in there.
Uh-huh.
And that was my first time also. My first time also seeing a drag queen perform.
Oh,
Also.
that was a great
And
experience for me too.
she was black. Which was
Yeah.
even better. She was black. So we sat there and we're like, what in the hell is going on right now? And that was my first time. That was my cousin's first time also like being around people who were gay that weren't me, but also
Yeah.
seeing a drag queen for the first time. So it was funny because me and my cousins experienced a drag queen for the first time together.
And are they gay as well? Your
No,
cousin?
no,
Okay. Okay.
they're not.
When did you come out? Like when did you like start expressing yourself and your sexuality?
I was 15.
15.
I can remember like sitting down with my mom and my dad, and I told him, I said, because I went to summer camp as a kid. So when you go to summer camp, that's when you meet all kinds of different kids. Like
Hmm.
I hung out with black kids, white kids, Asian kids, Latino kids. Like we were just like it was like a melting pot. So everyone was able to really just like be themselves, and I really accredit like summer camp really being able to like for me to be able to really just like be comfortable with myself. So I
Yeah.
remember that was like the first year I had like started dating a guy, and I came home and I sat my parents down at the table, and I came on and said, "Hey guys, hey mom, dad, I want to let you guys know that I am gay." And my dad was like, "Are you sure?" He was like, "You're kind of young." I was like, "No, like no, I know, like no, like I'm positive, like I've been feeling like this. I didn't know what it was for a while, and like I know." So my parents basically were like, "We love you. Like we don't love you any less. Like you're still our
Yeah,
son. Like
right.
we're still gonna support you." And they still support me till this day. Like they love my husband. I always tell people like my mom likes my husband sometimes a little bit more than me because like she'll call him first before she calls me.
Uh-uh.
Yes, yes, yes. She calls him before she calls me. And I remember going to bed and crying, and it wasn't because I was sad that night. It was because I was very happy. And my mom comes in and she sits on the bed, and I'll never forget this. And she leans over and she kisses me on my forehead and she goes, "I knew it because you act too much like me." And then she gets up, she goes, "I love you." Um, and
That's
it was
so sweet.
and it was interesting because I actually came out to my brother and my sister before I came out to my parents and my cousins. Before I
Okay.
told my parents, my brother and sister, they said the same thing. I came out to my grandmother. I had a couple of family members who like, I don't want to say they weren't supportive. They just didn't understand it at that time because they weren't as educated as they are now. But for the
Okay.
most part, my family was pretty accepting
That's
and
awesome.
loving and supportive. So yeah.
Those are the best story. Like that's the greatest outcome that we could ask for. Like, especially like for your experience. Were you hesitant or scared at all? Like I feel like you said it happened in camp and you came home right away and told them. Like, was there any like hesitation that you like felt like, oh, I couldn't tell my parents at all?
No, because I kind of felt like growing up, my parents, my parents are hippies, especially
Okay.
my mom. So, my mom worked in the hair industry for over 30 years. So, like, she was used to being around gay men all the time. So, it wasn't anything new for her. Um, my dad, he had a couple of family members who were part of the community. So, he wasn't really like, oh my God, so it
Hmm.
wasn't really like a hesitation. It was like, okay, when am I gonna tell them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like at that age, it's like, I know people that didn't come out until like their 20s and 30s. And
Hmm.
I've never operated that way. I guess you could say, like, even from like a young age, I guess you always knew. Like, I think my family always knew. It was just one of those things like, well, we were waiting for you to tell us
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Right.
So, but I don't think there's any hesitation. I think I've just always been very comfortable with my parents, and because they've always just been loving and supporting people,
That's good. That's
you
what I was
know?
gonna ask is like, because obviously they've had to be like affirming throughout that time. Because I
Hmm.
mean, some people like grow up and hear from their parents, like we talked about this on the past in Queen Talk. It's just like parents being the first bullies of kids and whatnot, and just like
Hmm.
hearing things and whatnot makes you like hesitant to say it to your parents, even though they may have been like hippie or whatever. So I'm glad that
Hmm.
that wasn't your case and that you were able to open up to them. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, nobody was bullying their baby. Nobody was
yeah,
doing
yeah.
that.
And that's what it sounds like. That's really awesome to hear.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for you. I wanted to ask, just like being a black gay man, um,
Hmm.
in a society that just like with other black cis straight men.
Hmm.
How has that been, like, your experience with black cis straight men for you? Like, have they been affirming in your life, or has it not been?
Um, I think in the very beginning, growing up, like when I was in school, I was teased a little bit, but I think as I got older, um, that changed a lot. Like I said, like one person that I feel like that was supportive when I came out was my brother.
Good.
Brother was like super supportive, nothing but like love and just like um, my dad was another person. So I think to a certain extent, I never really experienced that necessarily. I mean, like I said, I got teased in school, but
Well,
you
that's
know,
good.
when
I want to speak on that then. Like, how
yeah,
was your dad and your brother like affirming for you? Like, in what ways did they show you? So, like, other black cis men can do the same thing for like their siblings or friends, whoever may come to them as well.
my big thing is they treated me like any other person, you know, like my dad, you know, still took me to, you ever heard of the take your child to work day?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, I still went to, did things with my dad. I still hung out with my brother. Like I would still spend the weekends with him. Because he lived about 45 minutes from like my parents. Like I still went, had spent time with my nieces and nephews. Like, um,
Good, good.
there was no like, there was no like ever any ill will or anything because like I said I've always just been comfortable around my parents and my brother
Hmm.
or my dad and my brother especially, so I think for them, my mom and my grandmother, my mom still says this, my grandmother always should say this too, like you love with your heart and you love unconditionally, and my brother just and my dad just always loved me unconditionally. You know, it was never
Yeah,
like it was never conditional love. Well, you have to be this way in order for me to love you, or you know what I mean.
yeah.
My thing was my dad. What my dad was is he wanted me to. He didn't care that I was gay. He didn't care. He wanted me to stay in school and get good grades. That's what his focus was and his concern. He was like, keep your ass in school, don't drop out. I want you to continue to thrive. Like, so it was more of like encouragement
Hmm.
versus like, oh, well, because you're this way, I can't love you the same. So it was like his concerns for me was just that I was healthy and that I stayed in school.
Yeah.
That was his thing. Yeah.
That's great. I love that so much. Um,
Yeah.
I love that for you. What did you do? Did you
Yeah.
go to school? You went to college or anything?
So interesting story. So I got all the way through up. Have you ever heard of they did like the I don't know if they did that out where you're from, but they did these state tests
Mm-hmm.
that you would
The
take.
SATs. Yeah.
No, not the SATs. They were, well, we called them when I was growing up, they called them the Ohio Proficiency Test.
Mm.
So when you get to eighth grade, it's like a practice, and then you get to ninth grade, and then you take five parts. There's math, science, reading, language, and there was like one thing, I think it was like history, I think, or whatever. Anyway, I passed all five parts. Now, mind you, when I was in high school, like I got really good grades. I was in theater. I was on the swim team. I was very active in high school. So I took all five parts of the testing. I passed all of them, but the math. I got to senior year. They give you another chance your senior to take the test again. So, mind you, I passed all four or the all other four parts of the testing. Like that was already out the way. It was just the math. So I wanted to go take the test, and 2 weeks before graduation, my guidance counselor put me in the office. Actually, it wasn't even my guidance counselor; it was another guidance counselor put me in the office and said, "Unfortunately, you will not be graduating high school because you did not pass this test. Not because I dropped out, not because I was getting bad grades, because I wasn't. Like I said, I was very active. I was on homecoming court. I was prom king. Like I was very like active and social in school, so that deterred me. And honestly, I did not go back until 2022 to take that math test. So that whole time, I was not a high school graduate. So I went back in
Wow.
2022. I sat down. I took the test 4 times. You have to have like a 400 to pass. The first time I took it, I got like a 369. The second time I took it, I got a 375. The third time I took it, I got a 391. And by the fourth time, I had a 419.
Wow. You took it 4 times in 1 year in 2022?
Yes.
Oh my
So
goodness.
yes. So by the time I got around the ticket, I finally got my high school diploma after the fourth time of me taking it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So I was officially a high school graduate in the year 2022. I had been in the restaurant and bar industry for over 10 years because, as a high school not graduating high school, that was one of the only jobs that like I felt like I could get besides working in retail. I
Yeah.
left that and I got into education. I started working in the daycare center sector, and I did that for about 3 years. And I recently just left, and now I am working for the school district out here in California. So
Awesome.
thank you. So I'm actually enrolling back into college so I can go back to school so I can go get my bachelor's. Um,
Good for
so that's
you.
also thank you so much. And I credit a lot that part of this journey too to my husband because he was very instrumental in being very supportive of like I took a whole month off from like my serving job to uh, work on my diploma. So he really helped me with that. And then from there, like I came back out here, I actually took some online classes to get some early childhood education certification. So I'm certified in the toddler and infant program, early child development, child and family, and curriculum and theory. So I do have certifications in those.
So Teddy love the
Um,
kids. Is that what it
I
is? Teddy
love the
love the kids?
kids. I love the kids. I love the kids. I do. So that's a part of my journey. So I always say like music and education. You know they say music and fashion goes hand in hand. I also believe music and education goes hand in hand because
Definitely.
in music, you kind of got to educate yourself on what works for you and what doesn't. You
Hmm.
know, so it's initially the same thing, but yes,
But
yes, I
not
do
only
love the
that, but
kids.
just like I low key, like a lot of people don't know this about me, but like how I would study for tests is I would make it into like a song or like a poem or something like and write it down and really rap it out if I had a
Hmm.
test. And that's how
That's
I
smart.
memorized my stuff. Like, and I'd be in the test and I would just like look, think of the song that I put together, and that's how I memorize shit.
That's really smart. That's really smart. I did flashcards, so I was a little
Okay.
basic. I was a little more basic. I did flashcards, but
Yeah.
that's actually a really good idea. So when I
Yeah.
when I go back to college this year, I'll make sure I probably
It
end up
it
doing that. I'm gonna see how it
it
works out.
definitely helps. It definitely helps. It's like I'm not good at like retaining information. Like I could do that, do the test, then ask me a
Hmm.
couple weeks later, and then just like it's not there. So it's like the only way that I could even like remember it
Hmm.
was that way, and it just helped out tremendously for me.
That's
But
amazing. I love that.
yeah. I love that you went back after many years and just to achieve the goal. And like you said,
Yeah.
your partner was very helpful in guiding that. You need a supportive partner
Yes.
like
Yes.
to help you grow. So good for him as
Yes.
well.
Yes. I 2006 was my graduating year, and I did not go back until 2020. So actually, I took the first test. Actually, I take that back. I took the first two tests in 2021, and then and then I went after. Well, I took those. I took that math test twice in 2021, and then I went back in 2022 and took them again. Um,
Yeah, the resilience.
so yeah, so basically, from 2006 all the way up to 2021, I did not have a high school diploma.
Ah,
Yeah.
wow, that's well. And look, you do now.
And I got some certifications.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. That is
Yeah.
awesome. But this whole test, I'm like, I don't even know what, like, the fact that you had to like take this test.
Well,
Ohio
they
must
don't
be on
offer
some
them
different level.
anymore.
Yeah, Ohio on a different level.
They don't offer them anymore. They
Yeah.
so now they make it where you, if you are getting good grades and you're a decent student and you're not getting expelled or suspended, they'll pass you. But see, when I was in school, they weren't doing that.
Yeah, that's. I think that's when the No Child Left Behind Act came in. Um,
Yeah. Well, they
that's
definitely left some of us behind for sure. They definitely left some of us behind. I had to catch up.
yes. Hey, but you caught up. That's so exciting. Like
Yeah.
that is really a great testimony because
Yeah.
you could have just did that for the rest of your life, just served and just bartended and just been content with that. But
Yeah.
it's
I wanted
you
more
made a
for my
come.
family and I wanted more for myself. And I think that's a big reason. Like, I am so happy that I got to experience being a server and a bartender for that long, just because I met so many great people.
Hmm.
And it gave me a couple opportunities, even when it led into music as well too. So like, I'll never say that like I'm not grateful for that part of my life, but I feel like it was time for me to like move on,
Hmm.
and do something like different and something that was going to be a little bit more meaningful and more of an impact. Because like I feel like doing music, I'm making an impact, but I wanted to continue to make an impact, but like also in a different way too. But so like that's why I said like music and education also goes hand in hand as
Yeah.
well.
Do you foresee yourself what do you foresee in the future with your education and music? Like, have you thought of being like a music teacher or I don't know, like
Um,
something like that, or what have you seen for yourself?
so my goals and what I want to do, I do want to teach kindergarten and first grade.
Oh
Um,
goodness, Teddy, you really love
yeah,
the kids.
yes, I do. Yes, I do. I can't do middle school because those kids are going to want to fight and they're too hormonal.
True.
But also when it comes to music, I want to continue to like perform and travel. Like I'm glad I got the opportunity to meet you when I came out to Wichita.
Yeah.
So like I want to continue to like reach different spaces and reach different people and be able to really like hone in on my music because also a lot of the music that you got to like hear while I was there, like a lot of that I produced that myself and I started teaching myself how to produce music when I was working on getting my high school diploma too.
Okay.
And a lot
Yes.
of people don't know that either.
Right. Yeah. Because you are a writer, producer, and a
Hmm.
choreographer. I see.
Yes,
Like
yes, yes,
all triple threat.
yes, yes. Been dancing since I was 10 years old.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said you've been in theater, like growing up and stuff like that too.
Yeah, so we did I did a couple of plays. Actually, man. So I did, what did I do? Fifth grade, I did Robin Hood. I was Friar Tuck. Um I have played Martin Luther King Jr. Um I did Fame. I was in choir and then I did, like I said, I was on the swim team and I did that my sophomore year of high school too. So like I said, I was very active in school.
Yeah.
Got a lot of like different, and it's so funny because my mom, before we moved back to California, my mom, because they live in Florida, she actually sent me like a bunch of awards that I forgot that I had even gotten while I was in school. Like,
That's dope.
I got like a who's who and all these accolades, and I'm like, and my husband was like, "This is a reminder, babe. Like you're actually smart.
Yeah,
You're actually
definitely.
smart." And I forgot all about all these awards because growing up, like I've gone through a lot, so like I forgot about like all these accomplishments I had made when I was younger that has like led me into like what I'm doing like now.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just really grateful that like my mom sent me all that because, like I said, it was a reminder of like you've been working on who you
Right.
are since you were a kid. So yeah,
Definitely. Definitely. Sounds like your husband is very supportive of you. It wouldn't be right if we didn't talk about the husband. What's the husband's name?
My he's first of all, it's my best friend. It's my best friend. My husband's name is Darion.
Okay.
He's originally from Compton, Long Beach.
How did you meet him?
He was actually, let me take a sip of this. I actually met him when I came out here to visit in 2017. He was actually my Uber driver, and I had ordered an Uber, and I was actually like dating somebody else at the time. But me and my husband didn't start dating like right away. We were actually like really good friends first because he was one of the ones that like came to my shows while I was out here performing, and I ordered an Uber one day, and I guess he was like running late, and I was actually about to cancel the Uber because he was taking a really long time, and he still kind of runs late now. I guess he's always been that way. Um, and so he like pulls up, and I won't forget it because he used to drive this like maroon Jeep. And he's like, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. It was a long night, yada yada yada." So we get in the car, and him and I are just like vibing, and from there we became really good friends. And then when I went back to Ohio and I ended up coming back out here, he needed a roommate because his roommates at the time they weren't paying no rent. You know, it ain't cheap to live out here either.
Definitely
So
not.
I ended up moving in with him, and we became really good friends. Like we hung out. He's a theme park enthusiast, so like he loves roller coasters. We are Disneyland pass holders, so we're actually going to Disneyland
Dope.
today.
That's
um,
lit. The life.
but
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah, we're actually going to Disneyland today to meet some other Black Disney enthusiasts as well too. So we're gonna so he loves doing all that. So we just started vibing, and we became really good friends. And then we started dating, and I took him home to meet my family in 2019, and my family fell in love with him, and we actually just got married last May. And then we're having our anniversary May 10th, and then his birthday is May 13th. And then, but we've been together for 6 years.
Okay,
We just
wow.
celebrated our 6 year anniversary.
That's great. Now I
Yeah.
have to ask, how are you guys, how was it? Were you guys just, wait, let me pause, let me rewind. Were you guys really just roommates from the
Yeah.
start with no
Yeah.
benefits?
No, none whatsoever.
That,
And we had to explain that to a lot of people
you ain't
because
gotta
they're like,
explain, but I'm just like, because you
but that's the thing. I've lived in houses with other gay men and never done anything like hooked up. So it was like one of those situations where it was like we really just became friends. Like there was times like we would go to In and Out and just like eat food and just like shoot the shit and just talk.
yeah.
And then it wasn't until like the New Year's that like we hung out and we just like we had like we just shared a kiss, and then I asked him out on a date, and then he was like, "Oh, I got a coupon for this for Yard House," and I love food.
I love me a good coupon too, shit.
Okay, I said we love a savings. We love a savings in this household. Um, and he was like, "I have a coupon," and I was like, "Well, I got a little bit of money. Do you want to go?" And he's like, "Yeah," and like literally the rest is like history from like there. Like we just it was very like what's the word I'm looking for? It was very organic.
Hmm.
It wasn't forced.
That's
It was
good.
not forced. And I think my thing is like growing up and being in my 20s, um, I feel like a lot of the guys that I had dated, I felt like it was forced. And you never want to be in a relationship because it's forced. You always want to
Right.
just grow organically. And I didn't have a friend that like I had ever like fallen in love with like that. So he's literally been like my rock for the past like 6 years.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. But no, we like I said, we were really good friends first, and he was supportive of what I was doing, and I'm vice versa. And no, we went to Six Flags out here. He put me on this roller coaster that like you literally lay down and it goes upside down, and I was screaming the whole time, but like I had a good time because I had never experienced things like that before. So,
Yeah.
like I said, it was really organic. It was real natural.
That's good. Do you, all right, so I asked this because when I first met you guys were at
Hmm.
my table, both of you, and
Hmm.
then you guys walked off, and I had this guy come up. He's like, "Ooh, who are them five men?" Do you guys like have people like trying to get with you guys just because like you guys are two
Yes.
good looking men? Like,
Thank you. Thank you. My husband's gonna be he's gonna be happy to hear that he's fine. I mean, I know he's fine. That's why I married him.
yeah, you guys are both good looking men for sure.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you.
but yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
not a first. That always happens for you guys.
And I hate saying that, but yes, it's like it doesn't happen all the time, but like it does happen. Like we went to Spain for our honeymoon, and they were just like, "Oh my God!" Like man, and I'm like, we don't do. But like the thing is, like my husband, he's very like outgoing and he's very intelligent, but he's also fine too. So like we just and the thing is like we mesh really well together. Like we complement each other very very well. Um, it's like coffee and cream. So
Yeah,
it's like, but we
yeah,
do. I'm not even gonna front and say we
yeah.
don't. No, we do.
Yeah. And how was your guys' wedding? Like you guys got married recently, so like getting papers and all that stuff, that was easy for it to become legal, right? Like,
Yeah, so we're in California,
oh yeah,
so
true.
it's a little bit more, not a little bit, it's a lot more progressive out here than a
Mm.
lot of other places, I would say, especially like even where I'm from. So we actually like went to the courthouse, and his grandmother was a witness, and then some of his sisters
Oh,
came out, and then his mom lives in New York State, so like she was on the FaceTime. My mom and dad were in Florida; they were on the FaceTime. Like they were a part of like because my husband actually proposed to me in Toronto.
oh,
He actually proposed to me in Toronto. Yes, he actually proposed to me in Toronto. There's this place called the CN Tower, and it's like 1,100 feet in the air. And so he was like, "I want to take you to dinner." Now I didn't know he was proposing. I thought we were just going out there to kick it. I actually ended up doing a performance out there too. So we go to like the very top, and you go into this restaurant, and it rotates very, 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 very slow. So like you'll see like at
that's
one point you'll
dope.
see like the whole city of Toronto, and then you'll go out and then you'll see the ocean, and it just rotates so slow. Um, and then we ended up going down to the conservatory, and I guess he wanted to take a picture or a video. I thought that's what we were doing, and he got on one knee and he asked me to marry him,
Oh,
and I like lost my shit. I'm over here bawling, and everyone's clapping and like, congratulations. So I called my mom, and I was like, I already know, we already talked. And then that Christmas, I proposed to him on Christmas Day.
aw, that's
Yes,
dope. That's
yes, yes,
dope.
yes, yes,
And it was
yes.
a surprise for him as well.
Yes, because he knew I was gonna do it. He just didn't know when.
Yeah.
Um, and then I had called his mom and my parents and stuff, and I said, okay, I'm gonna have y'all on the FaceTime, but y'all can't say nothing. Nobody put their damn phones on mute. People was flushing toilets. People was having conversations, and I'm like, okay.
Oh my gosh,
I'm like,
that's
okay.
funny.
Nobody
And
listened to what I said. Nobody listened to me. Nobody listened to me.
they're like, we already went through this one time.
I'm like, okay. So, but fast forward to last year, we went to the courthouse. Um, we went to Spain for our honeymoon, and then we're going to do our vow renewal in May. But he actually had the flu last year when we got married. Like, we were in the courthouse, and he's like hunched over, and he was like deathly ill. And then we kissed, and I ended up getting sick. So we both in the bed. But yeah, no, it was pretty simple. Like I said, his grandmother was a witness, and
That's
his
dope.
grandmother was like, "I need a copy of this marriage certificate." So we were like, we call her little granny. And we're like, "Okay, little granny, you're gonna get a copy of the marriage certificate." So she got a copy, we got a copy. Um, yeah, and I recently it was funny because my mom was making fun of me because she was like, "You haven't changed your last name yet," and I was like, "Mom," I was like, "It takes a minute because people don't realize
Is
when
Martin
you
your
get
last name?
married."
Is Martin your last name?
So my real name, well, now my real name, because I changed it. My real name is Reginald Martin King Gaston. Teddy Martin is actually just a stage name.
Okay.
Teddy Theodore was my grandpa's name.
Oh.
Theodore Roosevelt Gaston was his name. So when I became a performer, I was like, I need something that's gonna be like that's gonna stick. I need something that's gonna sound like a pop star name, but something that's like meaningful. And so before my grandmother passed away, I asked her if I could use my grandfather's name as a part of my stage name, and she gave me her blessing. So that's where Teddy Martin comes from.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. It
So
has
like
meaning to
some of
you.
my family members, they still call me Reggie. Or like growing up, my grandmother, she used to call me Bud. So she'd be like, "That's my Bud."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's so dope.
Hmm.
I'm glad that it wasn't. I always wondered like how easy the process was to like get married. Um,
Hmm.
like that paperwork. Like, is it just like a okay, you sign it and then it's that easy? When,
Yeah, you
like,
have to bring like your proof of like residency. You know how like when you apply for something, you have to like proof of residency, and
kind of
then
like a
you need to
driver's
bring like
license.
yeah and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
then you need a witness. And that's
yeah.
it. Yeah,
Nice. That's dope. That's awesome. And you
pretty
mentioned
pretty
you
simple.
you got proposed in Toronto and they applauded you. So like, were they pretty queer affirming like in Toronto? Like when your guys' experience there?
Oh my goodness, like they were amazing. Like Toronto is just so like queer friendly. Like they do have like their things in Toronto that they are like working on as well, but it's not nearly as anything like here what we're seeing in the United States right now.
Okay.
Um, everyone is just, it was funny because the first time we went to Toronto, no, yeah, the first time we went, I went and did a show, and there was this black guy. I think he might have been from like Jamaica or something. Really cool dude. And we were like, yeah, we drove up. We were still living in Ohio at the time. Like, yeah, we drove up here from Ohio. From Ohio to Toronto, it's like 6.5 hours. And this is when old dude was in his first term, and
Hmm.
he goes, "Y'all drove up here. Y'all got up here okay?" And we're like,
That's a legit question though. Like,
"Yeah." He was like, "Y'all made it safe." I said, yeah. So it's interesting to like see how other people from around the world kind of perceive how they look at things in the United States.
hmm
But he was just like, I'm glad y'all got here safe. Like, make sure y'all make it home safe. But it was very like queer friendly. Just very like everybody in Toronto smoke weed. Like it's just very like it's a little bit more carefree.
yeah.
It's a little more carefree. Yeah.
And would you say in Spain too, it was pretty affirming for you, like queer affirming, or
Oh my gosh. Listen.
my partner? I asked because my partner's like scared to go like places, um, and which is understandable. But I'm like, it ain't no worse than here. Like they don't fuck with us here, really.
They
Like,
don't mess with us here. So when we went to Spain, it was a little different from Toronto. So we stayed in this little like local town called Sitges, which is like super gay friendly.
nice.
Um, they like to party out there. That's the first thing I'm gonna say. People in Spain party. Like they like to party. So we stayed in Sitges for about 5 days. We went to a like theme park called Port Aventura. Um, that was fun. Then we stayed in Barcelona for like a few days.
Nice.
Um, very gay friendly. I would say 90% of the people in Barcelona spoke Spanish. Not Spanish, I mean English.
Okay.
Um, but it was very like queer friendly. Like them, they don't care.
That's good. That's
They
good.
just been like they don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Because that's like my partner's not the only one that thinks that way. Of just like traveling being queer, traveling being black and queer. Like
Yeah.
we gotta think about it all. So I'm gonna have to add that to my list of
Go to
okay.
Spain. Go to Toronto. You're gonna have so much fun.
All
You're gonna
right.
have so much.
I'm
So much fun.
definitely gonna
But
add that to my
definitely check out Toronto first because it is a little closer.
experience a new Pride this year. I want to know your experience. How was your experience at Wichita Pride? If you did not know, this is how I met Teddy. Teddy was a performer at Wichita Pride last year. And to be honest, when I seen you, I was shocked. I was like, okay, they actually took the time to bring someone diverse here to town. So how was it like for you? What was your experience like with Wichita Pride?
I had a lot of fun. It kind of reminded me of my hometown a little bit. Very like Midwestern. I mean, people will argue that Ohio is technically more East Coast, but I'm like, it's right next to Indiana. It's to me, it's given Midwest.
Yeah.
Um, but it reminded me a lot of my hometown. I will say that like a lot of the people that came were very like nice and very like warm. It was almost kind of like it wasn't one of those other like humbling experiences, I guess you could say. But I did really, really enjoy myself. I had a lot of fun. I had a
Good.
lot of fun. And I feel like as I've got more into my craft, I've become very particular on how like I like to set things up with like sound and everything. So the
Mhm.
fact that like the DJ and like the people that were hosting it like were very accommodating to like what I needed. They were very like on point with it.
Good, 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 good. I actually joined the Wichita Pride Board this year. Um, yeah,
Congratulations!
thank you. I
Yes.
so I
Tell
will
them to bring me back.
I'm helping with like the after party part of it. So I'm
Congratulations.
yeah, we're gonna see how this is. I'm trying to be more intentional and be more involved. And so that is one way. But I do want to go to other prides. And did you is that how you get like the submissions? Like did you make a submission to come here? Did they find you? Or how does that work? If an artist wants to if there's another artist out there that's like, how do I get gigs? How are you able to get the gigs that you're getting?
So it depends. So there are a few different ways. Um, like for example, I did Palm Springs Pride a couple years ago, and I always say it's always in networking. So I had applied for Palm Springs Pride Festival because I had met someone at the San Diego County Fair that was like saw me performing. They're like, "Hey, I think you do really, really well in Palm Springs. You should apply for their Pride Festival." So I went. I applied for their Pride Festival. I got booked. I went down. Me and my cousin went down to Palm Springs, and we actually met someone who lives in Wichita, who was like, I think you would be great for the Pride Festival. That we're eventually like, because I don't think he had like joined or he was like a part of it yet. So that's how I got the Wichita gig because I had met him in Palm Springs and he had come out
Nice.
here to see me perform. So he was like, "Oh, I know people on the board. Like, let me talk to them and let me send them your stuff." And he sent one of the board members, and I remember I forget his name, but he was like, when I was out there this past year, he goes, my favorite song that you did or that you've done is a pop song. I love that song. I love that song. So that's how that happened. But out here, there's this organization called Out at the Fair, and they book people within like our community to come out and like perform um, in different fairs. So like before I moved back to California, I had to like apply because I knew we were coming back, and they also invite like other artists that are like from out of state. So I had applied for the San Diego County Fair, and then from there they I got on their roster and they just started booking me for like other stuff. So like I did San Diego, I did Orange County, I went to Santa
Nice.
Barbara, and then I did Indio, which is like basically all the way out close to Palm Springs. It's like basically in the desert. It's where they do Coachella,
Oh,
basically.
okay.
Um, and so like I got on their roster, and so that's how that like happened or whatever. And it's just depending on like what you're looking for and what you're doing, but like outside of that, like I actually started working with this organization also called the Cool Lab Festival, and they have local artists from like LA and Orange County, all walks of life, that come out and like perform their songs, and then they do a festival every year. They just celebrated their 50th year anniversary, and they have like a whole festival out here in Orange County. And like I said, you get people from all walks of life to come out and perform. Family friendly festival. So I guess it just kind of depends on like what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But I always tell people I'm a very versatile artist. So like anybody from somebody's little kid to somebody's grandma can listen to my music. You know, it's very universal because I grew up listening to
Janet.
you know,
Yeah.
me and my husband actually went and just saw her last weekend.
Okay. That's dope. I did see that she was having a show there. She get back out.
Yes. But I grew up, you know, listening to Janet and Michael and the classics and stuff like that. So, you know, they have a wide audience. And that's kind of like what I want to represent. I want to represent humans. Obviously, you know, you want to represent our community as well. But I grew up hearing the stories of like segregation and people like not being able to sit together, and like hearing stories like that and seeing what's going on now, like honestly breaks my heart. So, you know, music is universal. It brings people together. So
Right.
that's why I do what I do.
Yeah. And what does Teddy Martin have lined up? Like what's we got? You do have a new single, it's just Better Days. What else is? And we'll have that link below that people can easily access that. What else is
Good
Teddy?
song. It's a good song. One of my favorites. So I am doing. So far, I know I'm working on some other music this year. I'm working on a couple of different like projects that people can see. I'm going to be in San Diego this year for their county fair. I'll be at the Orange County Fair again this year, and then just working on like new music, doing some collaboration. A friend of mine is actually starting up his production company, so I will be like their in-house like producer for like their projects and stuff. So I have my hands in like a lot of different pots this year, but I know I'm going to be on stage this year. Like the stage is my home, so you'll be seeing me on stage a lot this year.
That's dope. And then just I got one final question, Teddy, and that is just like, what would you like to leave the audience with today?
To never give up on yourself, because things don't ever come easy. Especially for people like us, I feel like we have to work 10 times as hard, but you never ever give up, because I feel like just for me doing music for over a decade, me going back to get my high school diploma, like and then getting college credits, finding the love of my life, like anything is possible, and you just have to really believe in yourself first and foremost. And sometimes it's easy to get distracted, and that's okay because we're all human. But I feel like you never give up. You never ever give up. Like I've experienced so much loss with just in my family members, and just like I've just experienced a lot of loss, and to me I've had a lot of trauma, but I've turned all that trauma and that pain into love and to what I want to do, because tomorrow's not promised. So my whole thing is like never, ever, 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 ever give up on yourself and your dreams and your goals, because like I said, anything is possible.
Yes. I feel like that's perfect coming from you, like you said, with you literally going back to get your diploma 2, 3 years ago. Like that's a testimony, like I said before. And the resilience, like being in the music industry, it's not easy. And you have to believe in yourself and you know if it's is it a desire of yours. If it's a desire of yours, you will continue to go and continue to just like build upon that. But it is hard, so definitely just keep doing what you're doing, Teddy.
Thank you. Oh, and don't worry about what everyone else is doing in terms of like when you're in your field and like whether that's education, it's music, whatever it is, don't ever, 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 and I know it's hard for people to do this, but you don't ever want to compare yourself to somebody else and thinking, oh, well, they're doing better than me, or they have more followers, or they have more streams, or they have more this. Stay focused on what, and my husband says this all the time, like, stay focused on, like, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's your dreams and your goals, you know? So that's just what I live by. I just continue to do what I'm doing because I've been doing it for over a decade, you know? So
Yes. I love that. And that's comparing is so hard not to do.
it is.
It is like I catch even myself. I'm just like with this podcast, I it's bigger than me. Like this mission. That's what I tell myself that all the time. Like it doesn't matter if one person sees this podcast and it helps them get to where they want to go or have that conversation with their family or make a commitment to do music now. It's like whatever it could be, just like one person, and that's all it's needed. So, um, yeah, comparing is don't do it.
Keep doing what you're doing because the thing is, like, look how just you and I just connected,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, no,
So it's the little things that make a big difference,
exactly,
you
exactly.
know?
Exactly. And we just hit our 50th episode not too long ago. We're gonna do
Congratulations.
50 more, and we're just gonna keep pedaling on. So
Keep doing it.
yeah,
Seriously, keep doing it. Like, you have to love what you do in order to succeed, and
mm,
the fact that you're still continuing this, like, that's also a big testimony to your character, you
yeah,
know?
for sure.
Because you give people a platform to come and also speak
Yeah,
on what they're doing. So I
yeah,
commend you for doing that because, especially like I said, in our community, sometimes we don't get those spaces to do that. So the
right.
fact that you're doing this, like, to me, that's a big deal.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And yeah, so I just yeah, we gonna keep rocking it. We gonna keep telling people stories and showing representation because that's what Queen Talk is all about. Um,
Yes.
and I hope you all enjoyed this episode today. And if it taught you one thing, it is be resilient. If you have something, a goal that you're trying to achieve, it could take 10 years, it could take a year, whatever it is, it could take 4 times, but it doesn't matter. Just if you want it, go get it and achieve it. You guys make sure to leave a comment. Let us know what you think of this episode. What do you think of Teddy's story? How does it to relate to you? And what did you learn? As always, family, friends, strangers, love, be nice.